I thought it was our most complete game. Utah State's a good football team. Coach Anderson has done a really good job with them. We felt good about our matchups coming into the game. Just a size advantage up front. We did feel like we could get some one-on-one matchups on the outside, which it was going to be important that we won some contested balls, and we certainly did that. We felt like our corners could match up with our wide receivers and do something that, a lot of people had not done. They'd played a lot of zone on them, and so we played a lot more man, and I think took some of the space away. We ran the ball really efficiently. We ran the ball better as the game went along, and that's kind of a combination of not only some really good runs by both Titus and X, but our offensive line, tight ends, and fullbacks did a nice job with that. I thought Levi threw the ball really well. His numbers were good, even though we didn't put the ball up a lot. We had the one interception. It was kind of a bang-bang. Their defensive player made a nice play on the receiver and knocked him down and then picked the ball off. And Levi, the ball was coming out of his hand just right after that. And so a good play by them. We were plus on the turnover margin, which we always think is important in games that we think are going to be decided fairly closely. And then also we flipped the script within special teams. And certainly the kickoff return was a huge play in the game. That, along with Titus's run, I thought were really big. But the kickoff return was particularly helpful because they have had a great history of kickoff returns, and we had done a lot of different things with pooch kicks and things like that, trying to negate that. And so really pleased with our performance. That one's behind. That was our 6th win, so we're pleased with that. Now on to Hawaii. Coach Todd Graham has got a great reputation, a long history of being a very seasoned football coach, many stops along the way. He's an old high school guy from a high school coach out of Dallas, so he cut his teeth the hard way and came up through the ranks and enjoys a really good reputation. I think that they're a really good team. They soundly beat CSU. Their quarterback is an exceptional athlete. He can run, he can throw it. He's got great speed, and he makes plays on the run. We do know a lot about their starting running back. Day Hunter is a guy that we tried to recruit extensively. He's originally from the Denver area, and their defensive line has got great size. They're almost 180 degrees difference as far as their size compared to Utah State. They're big and strong up front, and they do move pretty well. And they have a linebacker who I think is an excellent player. Muoso, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's a first-team all-conference player last year. And as I said, they had a convincing win over CSU. And so we're playing him at home right after Thanksgiving. Really want to encourage our fans. From what I understand, the weather is going to be nice, about 50 degrees. That's going to be great for our fans. Quite frankly, I wish it were about 20 degrees with snow, but it's not. So we're going to be getting ready to play the Rainbows. We have a traveling trophy on this game as well, a long storied history, so a lot to play for. So at this time, I'll open it up to questions.
Josh, go ahead.
Obviously, senior day coming up on Saturday. For you as a coach, what does that day mean to you each year?
Well, it's particularly different this year because of all the different moving parts. It's always encouraging to see our guys who have exhausted their eligibility and, are going to go on to another chapter of their life, whether it be in the NFL or in, some graduate school or, go out in the business world. So it's always special for us. We'll look forward to this day.
Cody, go ahead.
Craig, everything on offense seemed really smooth on Saturday, unlike a lot of Saturdays this fall. Did that all start with the offensive line, the rhythm, everybody getting in sync a little bit?
Most of the time it does start up front, Cody, unless you're doing some things where you're doing, where you're taking the ball out wide and doing a lot of, jailbreak screens and hitches and things like that, where the offensive line really doesn't have to block very long or open up some running lanes. We challenged our offensive line to get man-on-man. I think early in the game, Utah State came up with a couple, stunts that we didn't quite match up well with. but there was no catastrophes. And then along with that, we didn't have any holdings from the offensive line. I think we had 2 jumps, one early, but outside of that, they played really clean. And then I thought Levi got in a rhythm and really felt comfortable. And, certainly, the completion percentage, I think, was about 80%. And like I said, we made some contested catches. And so everything kind of dovetailed off one another. It was a good performance by our offense. And I think you're right on your assessment. It starts up front.
Ryan, go ahead.
Craig, it's a unique senior day also in the sense that some of the guys could come back if they wanted to because of the COVID year. Are those conversations you have after the season, or do you know if some guys might come back and where you want your numbers next year?
Yeah, every college football coach in America is dealing with some challenges, and the NFL group is also dealing with challenges because normally they're evaluating about 600 guys that are going to declare. I think that number is going to push 1,600 this year. And so a lot of moving parts. I have not had extended conversations. We're going to be focused on the task at hand of beating the Rainbows, and then we'll have some conversations after that.
Tracy, go ahead.
Coach, just with the young players that stepped forward in that game against last weekend against Utah State, the emergence of some of them, the receivers in particular, any particular development on them that you see?
Well, I was really pleased. We'd seen great progress with Isaiah, and he's still fairly young, but Josh Cobb had, I think a breakout game. I mean, some contested plays. He got his feet down in the end zone, reacted well on a couple of the deeper balls. So it was really good to see Josh play. Jalen Sargent played a little bit. He's from Logan. But the guy who really sticks out in my mind was Josh. I mean, I thought he came out and he played on a big stage and he played really well.
Josh, go ahead. Looks like Josh is frozen. Cody, go ahead.
Craig, I guess this is, I'm sure, out of your hands, but not very good luck for Hawaii having to come to Laramie 2 years in a row. And also, does Shaven Cordero, does he remind you of Todd Centeo, Nick Nash a little bit, but maybe a better arm?
Well, I think his speed might be better. Well, Nash's speed had great speed, but I think Shaven has got great feet, and his arm is better than all those other guys. I mean, he's a dynamic quarterback, and, I've been having some discussions with our defensive staff on what kind of things we'll need to do to neutralize him, but that's going to be a tall order. And he handles the ball well. He places it where it needs to be placed, and he's very elusive. When he takes it and runs with it, boy, very rarely do you get a clean shot on him. And he's got great speed and excellent feet.
Ryan, go ahead.
Craig, you mentioned the young receivers, but you also have Trayden Welch, you have Titus Swin. With that nucleus of skill players and the way Levi's starting to come on a little bit, are you kind of excited about what the future holds on offense?
Well, I'd be remiss if I said that you have a real sense of optimism in the future. We're really focused on this game, but all those guys are going to have a really bright long-term career here, and they're making big plays, and so we're encouraged by that.
We got any more questions for Coach, guys? Tracy, go ahead.
The confidence that Levi seems to be developing, particularly with the long shots he takes. I mean, has it been anything you guys have done in practice, or do you think he's just settled into being into that role and accepted that that's his opportunity?
Well, when we were making decisions on changing the quarterback position, which is a seismic change, one of the things that we had noticed during that time was it seemed like Levi had a little bit better touch on the ball, on the back shoulder fades and some of the deeper balls. And when you have a guy that's got the catch radius and the strong hands like Isaiah, that's a really challenging combination. And so I think those two have really been in sync. It was encouraging to see Josh Cobb come up with some big plays as well. And I thought that was Levi's best game as far as being poised, staying in the pocket, going through his progression. He didn't have happy feet, and he seemed much more in rhythm, and certainly his productivity showed.
You think that just comes with the confidence of getting in there for a few games in a row and being a regular part of it instead of trying to prove everything in one day?
Yeah, that's always the debated topic, and I've never been a guy that's tried to shuffle quarterbacks. We were in a transition earlier, and then once we made the decision, I think Levi's gotten better each week, and this certainly was his best performance. And it also, I don't know if a lot of people know it, his girlfriend's a starter on the Utah State volleyball team, so I'm sure he wanted to show well there.
Ryan, go ahead.
Craig, it seems like I ask you about Muma every week, but this week, 17 tackles, finalist for the Buckus. Just what's it like to have a guy that seems to be getting better week by week, who already had a high standard?
Yeah, it's been a joy to coach him, and how many more games we'll have. He's declared to go in the Senior Bowl, so his eligibility will be completed. And he played really well. He didn't have any interceptions, but he was flying around to the football many times. His plays are because he can diagnose things really well. And then a lot of other times it's his effort and his ability to get to places. I mean, he'll run, high 4.5, low 4.6s, and when he gets there, he's very explosive. As a matter of fact, we did find that he went through 5 chin straps at the beginning of the year, and it wasn't because of the malfunction on the helmet. There was so much thrust. And so he's very explosive, and he keeps on playing hard for the Cowboys.
Cody, go ahead.
Speaking of Chad, Coach, was that an emotional, hard conversation you guys had about whether he was coming back or going?
I had a really lengthy conversation with Chad and his parents. We talked about being able to probably provide some information for him that would maybe help make a decision. And a lot of it came down to, I told him, I said, there's really going to be, you're going to hear from all kinds of different agents and projections and things like that. But the Senior Bowl is vetted by the NFL. And once you get an invitation for the Senior Bowl, I mean, I don't want to say you're guaranteed to be a top 100 player, but that's pretty much where it's at. And I said, if you get an invitation and the fact that we look at your skill set and where your ceiling is, if you can improve a whole lot between this year to next year, and where Logan Wilson came back his 5th year, Logan improved significantly between his 4th and 5th year. I think the things that Chad's doing right now, I don't know if there's going to be a big change in his productivity. And so, we talked once he got the invitation. He came up to my office. We had a really good conversation. But this is, quite frankly, something that I saw coming, I think, maybe at the Northern Illinois game. I mean, it was just an emerging player that you just kept going, wow. And he's done that time and time again. He's been a marvelous captain for us, and he'll have a great long career in the NFL.
Josh, go ahead. Josh, you're on mute.
I lost my Wi-Fi for a minute, so sorry if it's already been asked. But Titus had another really big game, some explosive play. With X being a senior, how promising is it to see that you have another guy that can step in that has that home run ability?
Well, we've always had a 1-2 punch, and those two dovetail off one another. I thought DeWyan did some good things when he was in there as well, and have 2 running backs that were able to rush over 100 yards. That's a great 1-2 punch. We'll need that again, come this Saturday. And they practice hard. They encourage one another. They've been great teammates.